seems that doctors need to uh, reassess what they call alzheimer's. Could it be that it is nothing but the individual being on the threshold of a greater awareness, and it's shedding the mind? Maybe it could be something on that level. I don't know.
Well, the old way of things and practicing, etc., was the idea was blanking the mind. Okay, and so this was the spiritual idea, and again, that's in the etheric realm. And then many people have, because it's indifferent. It's your intuitive part. This is where you become more intuitive, and this is where people gain psychic abilities. Is really from that area. Now, the psychics that can see things, usually from a physical or astral, well, they're more of the astral realm, is what they are, etc. But then many have touched what is known as the deep dark border, which is also called the void, where you're blank of everything. Okay, and so, but still, there's a leap, you might say, to your real awareness, because that is considered the end of life itself, the deep dark border. But it's not. It's actually a prelude to the beginning of all life, which is the real universe, is your real awareness. But then again, it takes a lot. This is where we go through a lot of lifetimes, because we only gain a little bit each lifetime of recognition because our attention is so scattered. So, the mind is okay. You just, the way that I do it is you just observe it. But what I like to do is just be aware. And then the mind is still. You don't try and still it. You don't try and do anything. You just simply be aware. And I like that the best. And you'll start to recognize that you don't need the mind at all. You don't need any of it, because everything's available. This is the best part of it, but you got to learn to recognize that. Yes, and so it doesn't mean I know everything in creation. That's not it, and I'm not interested. I'm only interested to know what I'm interested to know, and anything outside of that comes and go, and I'll say, no, I don't know that, whatever, because I'm not interested. So, but it's so cool that you will start to see you don't need the mind at all. You don't need the emotions. You don't need the memory. You don't need the senses. You are aware, and it's so cool. As you're like the air, you're just aware. And so, but again, each person decides that, and from that, then with that, you decide. It's very interesting how subtle it is. You decide to perceive this reality, this true reality life is, because you are the experience. Just like Paul says, we are the experiencer. The old idea is soul. Soul is the experiencer, you see. But you're the decider too of what you wish to experience. So there's a hint.
Yeah, Duane, you've really put a handle on this clearly. So now I see through the whole issue now. Yes, life has given us an opportunity to take the next step, and the mind is by downplaying the mind, but then we become terrified because we've been holding on to it, and due to its sensations, we think that is the pinnacle of life, and then life is teaching us to let go of the mind. They will become terrified. See, I get it now. Okay, then we live in a world of controversies and conspiracy theories. So is the new presentation one of the conspiracy theories of modern times?
Well, it is for those that created the idea, isn't it? Of course, they love it. Everything is whatever the officials decide, right? So the CIA, or it doesn't even matter who created the idea that, oh, they're conspiracy theorists. Well, I learned this more so from Kelsey, and that is that, because she's went to college and all these things, and basically everything is theory. Everything is pronounced as theory and described as theory in the textbooks and the classes that are taken. And, to most people, it's like, oh, that's a given. But when it comes to the idea of conspiracy theorists, oh, that's something, whoa, that's scary stuff. And it's like, oh, no, we're not going to go there and whatever, et cetera, because the government, it's like, again, they play both sides. And so by the very fact they created that little idea, and there was a movie with Mel Gibson, it was very good and very right on, called Conspiracy Theory. It was very good. I've seen it several times. I suggest people see it. And it shows the other side. But again, they play both sides, and they play all sides. They cover all the bases and everything with what's going on. And I'm having fun with again, I mentioned it before, a series on Netflix called The Blacklist. And I like these types of involvement. I really get absorbed in the adventure of them and all the different angles that are created and things that show up and how things are set up. And this is how this world is. There is no natural order here almost to things. And even the natural environment and nature and everything else is struggling with the created consciousness because it's so distorted here. So, yeah, we have, we have a real challenge here like never before, Charles. So, as you ask these questions and what have you, people get a better definition, because I really like to see people succeed. That's the whole idea. It's not just shelling out knowledge here. It's not shelling out information so that it all sounds good and it's all fun to share and giggle about, but that people succeed with this, truly succeed. And this is something that's ongoing. Yes. But the best part is the true recognition of it, not just the knowledge. That's just the very elementary part, even though it's a lot more than what's going on in the world. But yeah, conspiracy theory and all that. And yeah, of course, we're suspect, even when we're nice and we're just presenting the natural environment. Ask Val. Val's the witness here. Now, it's starting to show up again. And from what? Because Val is asking questions. He was even in OCC there. He was trying to become familiar with, their guidelines in the campus. And he was even accused and investigated that he came into the office too many times and asked questions. Well, what the heck's the administration there for? Okay, if not to help people through the process. And here, I've been here almost 50 years in the public, and people are still asking the same questions, which is fine, because I see that it's a huge journey. But over there at OCC, which they get paid for that job, okay, to do that, to be there, they get annoyed with people like Val that ask questions about going through the process. So again, conspiracy theory, he could use that label on them, because is there a conspiracy going here? Because we just want to share something wonderful, and they don't want to hear about it. So again, the world doesn't want to hear about anything that makes sense, so they label it as conspiracy theory, don't they? And so we're there too. We're claimed to be a cult and all these other things. But these are people that are one-dimensional, and they really don't investigate what we're presenting. And again, it's not about, what's funny about, it's kind of interesting and funny about the new presentation is it's really not about what we're presenting. It's a whole lot more that's a whole lot better. So this is just a reference. This is just kind of the crust on the pie. You got to cut through the crust to get to the pie. Yeah.
Yeah, Duane, especially from the religious and the spiritual point of view of their established beliefs and dogmas. They would They will look at what you're presenting, what the wonderful worldwide educators are pushing to be nothing but conspiracy theories, and that the real thing lies with them. It is what was, and it is what will ever be. So whatever is coming up is just a distraction. And so it is the reason for the great conflict that one of the masters warned the new friend on the real side about being careful with what his father, you, was telling him. Yeah, and that he's on his own, that he needs a master, to guide him on the real side, because on the on the new path, we've been left to ourselves, we've been abandoned to our fate, and we're working alone. But then you made it clear that life is an individual journey, it's an individual adventure, and we have to walk it with our own feet. The masters say, no, you need a master. And to perpetuate this master-student idea for all time. So you see, from this various angles, they will look at what is being presented now as nothing but a conspiracy theory, it's nothing but a distraction, which is not going to. There's nothing of truth in it or reality in it. So I don't know whether I can say something about that.
I'm looking at this, and again, everything becomes evident. It's so interesting. And I would say that I could take anything and bring it around. So I look at the idea of conspiracy theory, and it just depends upon how this is mentioned. In other words, if a person asks, like you, are you conspiracy theorists? Okay, that's one way. But if they make the statement, you are a conspiracy theorist, okay, and maybe shoving it a little bit, a little bold, I would agree. I would say, yes, you're absolutely right. Yes, you're smart. You're a very smart person to see that. Yes, and along those lines, because I agree to that simply because we make sense in a senseless world. You see, so I'm fine with that. So in other words, if we're not labeled conspiracy theorists, then we're agreeing with the senselessness. So by the very fact that we're labeled that, we're not agreeing with the senselessness that's taking place. Do you see? So I'm fine with that. I'm fine with all of it. Because you know what? It's just words. Doesn't mean anything. Doesn't change anything. You can love or hate the sun. Doesn't change the sun. It still shines. You see? So that gives people something to think about when all of a sudden you agree to what they're saying. Oh, you're a cult, you're this or that. And it's like, okay, yeah, that's fine. We're fine with that. See, because really they want something to work off. Most people that make these statements, again, they're bored. They're very, very bored, and they look for a reaction. Again, you talk about battles in outer space and intergalactic wars. This is how they start, because people are bored. Instead of taking the time to recognize the whole of life and how awesome they can become, they'd rather sit here and choke each other. So, conspiracy theory, it just depends upon how it's delivered. I'm fine with that because it's just words. It's just a rearrangement of words. And everything in its own way references the is. And so, yes, you can say, well, this isness, Duane, this is a conspiracy theory. Well, yeah, it is. Yeah, because it does not align itself with the so-called normalness that makes no sense on this world. So we can call it a conspiracy theory if you like. It really doesn't matter. Yes, because it's indifferent to it. You see? You understand, Charles?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's fun to see if you can bring things around, no matter what is said, instead of just, yes, we react to things. I do too. But the fun part is bringing it around to where it all makes sense with the isness life is. That's the best part, instead of being defensive and trying to negate it. And let's see if the person takes on the challenge to continue on. Yes. And so again, I had on Facebook in the past, I had confrontations with the member shrimps. And, these were the higher initiate know-it-alls and whatever. So I would let them go on for a ways back and forth. And we'd go back and forth. And I'd usually refer to, well, ask Rivazar and Paul on the real side, with what I'm presenting, etc. And we'd go back and forth with ideas. And they'd say, well, what about this and this and this? And then at some point I'd say, okay, prove it. And, everything that they said, I let them go on for a ways, back and forth 3 or 4 times on the chat or the comment. And then I'd say, prove it. And usually they'd say something like, oh, you want me to prove it? And then they wouldn't say anything. They'd erase everything. And so again, I'm presenting this in a particular way, and I'm fine with anything that comes up. It got to a point, even in my relationships and my marriage, where, I tried to do things, and I was sometimes blamed for these things. So after a while, jokingly, I would say to my spouse, I have to admit it, I did 9/11, and it wasn't the cow in the Chicago fire. I did that one too. Okay, so I did that one too. And the big bank robbery of the 40s, I was there. So I just started admitting to everything. What does it matter? So it kind of breaks the ice here. So as we're not resistant or defensive about what's taking place, but realistically and making the best sense of it we can, because we are getting bombarded, just like John said earlier here, with all the Wi-Fi in the schools. Yeah, we're very aware of this, and these kids are being doused, etc. And yeah, I really do care. It affects me, especially when I see young people or anybody, especially the young people, getting shots, and all of a sudden they're on Facebook and their life is really a hazard. They can get through that, but until they have something, and this is where this is such a real benefit and a real gift for everybody, and we're trying in every which way to present this to the world, because this is the real cure. This is what I call the real cure for all. And that is your real awareness. It's not about pills. It's not about eating herbs and all these things. That's your diet. You decide that. And yes, it helps. But the real cure for all is you're recognizing your real awareness. And that's what we have. It's Charles. So yeah, conspiracy theory is fine. I'm fine with it.
Okay, then. Thank you. Okay, then there's much talk about music being able to influence and augment one's perception and recognition of reality. I've not heard you as yet comment on the primordial role that music plays in one's relationship with the beyond. So can you say something about this at this juncture?
Yeah, Paul wrote a book too, Eckin Music, in the old days, and I started to, I was into the oldies and things like that. I didn't really like the newer stuff like Hendrix and Led Zeppelin and all this radical twangy guitar stuff, etc. I liked a few of the things, but I liked the oldies from the 50s, 60s, 70s, etc. More casual, fun music. But then, as Paul wrote that, I studied more, and then I got into a little bit of Mozart and Beethoven for a while, but it was really Richard Wagner that really set the pace. Wagner's in the real universes, etc. And so, yes, I listen to Wagner sometimes, and I'll listen to the oldies too if I'm writing or something, but very, very seldom. I like just being myself and perceiving. But yes, music does bear, and especially the so-called music today, it's really noise. It's really control is what it is. You might say controlled noise is what it is. That's what the hue and the am have become. They're just noise. And they're vibrations of a particular, and it's the words and how people take them in, and for the most part, they become emotionally attached. And the idea is to become emotionally attached, and especially to the celebrities. And again, referring to Marjorie, on the real side, she had hundreds of people sitting there asking her why, because they had looked to her. And look at the millions upon millions of fans that have supported these people financially and whatever, in the music industry, the rappers and what have you. And it seems really cool, but at the same time, these people are all set up for the vampire reptilians. Absolutely. And so again, music is a vibration. Each person decides that for themselves. It's not about good or bad or whatever. It's choice, just like your meal. But again, it's a preference. But overall, I prefer just, the silence or the isness life is. And I hear this high pitch within myself, and it changes tones at different times. But really, I look to this isness myself. But and at times, I will listen to certain music. But compared to the isness, there is no comparison. But if a person is just locked into their music all the time, you want to take a look at the words, because you're really programming the subconscious, which has an effect on the emotional body, and then eventually the physical body, because all cancer comes from the astral body. It starts there and it affects the physical body. Unless you drink gasoline or something, of course you're going to get it. But and we've got all this nanotechnology and everything we're inhaling, so it's physical astral. But the vibrations, and again, it's the intent of the individual, how they absorb it, how they react to it, etc. Yes, there are good musicians out there. I appreciate them too. But overall, with what's going on in the world, survival, I see, comes first. And the world is, people are self-destructing. And this is in the consciousness. So that's what I look at all the time. So more so than enjoyment or chasing happiness, I'm always focused on, observing and being part of that observation, because by the very fact that I do that here, the real me, on the real side, connects with others to assist them, you see, and so we all assist each other in providing this real awareness. So the more you align yourself with this, the more you align the real you, or the old idea was your higher self, but it's really you, because it's your intent with this true reality, so it can support you and then support those that you're providing for. So now you get a real support in life, to where eventually, yes, you will be standing as that free being of real light, and recognize the endless vastness that life is, and the aliveness that you cannot even consider in the personal self. So yes, it all plays hand in hand, young man. So the music, yeah, it's choice. It's music here. Beethoven was basically deaf, and he got very frustrated at times, because he could hear in the inner planes, or the real side, which is still in creation, the music of the spheres, he called it, or whatever. And here, with the instruments that are created, if you listen to the rain, or if you listen to a wave breaking, or the wind going through the trees, there is no instrument that can substitute that. You can record it, but subtly, it's not the same as the reality it is it? So again, what is music? What is noise? What is discordant, etc.? And there used to be a book out, The Secret Life of Plants, and they used rock and roll, and they used symphonic music, classical music, and the ones with the rock and roll died because of the vibrations. And so again, it's about awareness, and it's about the actual abrasiveness of much rock and roll music, especially heavy metal, and that it destroys your cells. They start dying. It's very real. Valerie Keller, who I used to know, she was a professional musician, played acoustical guitar. And she went to OCC in that for many years. And she told me about some of the famous drummers of the world that had died because the beat of the drums was different than their heartbeat, and they died from that. And so again, yeah, there are many applications, and the individual will be shown. You make the choice. Again, I'm not going to say this is that or that is that. I prefer the isness overall, but I will listen to some things, but it's up to each individual.
Thank you. Yeah. So you would rather listen to the inner music than concentrate on the discordant sounds of the outer world?
Well, so, it's not to listen to that, but I like awareness myself. And that is being aware. And then whatever comes of that with the is, you see. So again, at times it will bring something in. You can call it the inner sphere of music. And it just depends. Each individual is different. People that are really into music, they're going to, their things are going to show up for them. Okay, as opposed to, I don't look for that. I'm not really interested. I like music, but I look at the perceiving and the awareness. That's what I look for. But I listen to music, but on the real side, no, I don't look for the music. But musicians may. This is where they get their tunes and melody. This is where Wagner got it. And so I listen to Wagner and I see how awesome that is, and he's very in tune with that reality that life is. He's very in tune with that, especially with certain preludes that he wrote. And I see that, but at the same time, no, mine is not about the music. That's just something that I refer to. Mine is about awareness and perceiving. That's my adventure, and this is what I present here. So again, everybody makes a choice. Yeah.
Thank you, Duane.
Yes, thank you for showing up, Charles. Yes, get some sleep, take naps during the day. Yeah. Say hello to Miriam. When's Miriam going to come on again?
Oh, that's a big question. That's a big question.
We miss her. Yes, sweetheart. So, okay, Ava's still doing the pictures. So, okay, we'll see you next time, but talk to her and say hi. Get your projects going, whatever. You kids have fun. Go for the adventure. Thank you for all these years and what this has led up to. And again, we're just beginning here, so we're still very young, a lot to go. So thank you. Hang in there, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody. It's all for you.